I'm Julie Saunders.
I'm Jan Wilson. Julie and I both have experience as school librarians, and we've worked together as district library leaders.
In each episode, we'll dive into our profession with interviews and meaningful content to inspire you. We're not experts,
but we're pretty close.
The ideas and opinions shared by any host, guest, or listener are their own and do not represent those of any respective school district.
Welcome to Library Exchange.
This episode is sponsored by School Specialty, your partner in transforming traditional libraries into dynamic media centers and learning hubs.
With their Projects by Design service, School Specialty helps schools reimagine their spaces with flexible furniture, maker spaces, soft seating, and integrated technology.
From fostering collaboration to supporting digital literacy, School Specialty will guide you every step of the way, from vision to installation. Learn more at schoolspecialty.com. How's it going, Jan?
Julie, I've missed you. I mean, for the few hours since I last saw you at work. But don't do the math. It's been about 12 hours, I think. And it's the thought that counts.
Right.
What I really want to talk about for a minute is like anytime I'm in a store right now, even the grocery store, I can't help but head down the back to school aisle and look at the school supplies.
It's that time of year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have anyone in my house that needs a school supply, so. But did you enjoy back to school shopping for supplies? Do you have any memory of that time? I mean, you are 51.
Yes. I have to think way back, but I loved back to school shopping, and I was a little bit of a nerd, and this will show my age. I actually really did enjoy having to cover textbooks with the grocery.
The brown paper bags?
Yes. And I have to say, it became a little bit of a competition. You know how I like competition? Between me and Jenny Johnson, if you're out there, my fifth grade best friend, who was quite artsy. She would cover it with the white grocery bags.
Oh.
I don't know where she got those, but they were fantastic. And she would decorate them. And anyway, mine never looked as good as Jenny Johnson's, but I did enjoy covering those textbooks.
I forgot about that. And I think in high school, we used to get bonus points if we brought our textbook back covered or something like that. But I've told you this story before, and you don't remember this. You are younger than me, but I had that paste. It's called School Time white paste. It was in a jar. It had a built-in stick on
Loved those.
And you could spread it with that, but it smelled like peppermint. And, I ate it.
We all did secretly.
In first grade. And anyway, after we introduce our guest, we'll see what he has to say about school supplies.
Our guest today is Stan Tucker, a former teacher who is now a children's author, motivational speaker, and host of the very Airy Library.
I mean, Julie, we've met Stan. We've seen him in person at schools and other events. And I like to refer to him as a kindness ambassador because along with literacy, he promotes character education in schools that he visits all across the United States.
Stan, welcome to Library Exchange. We are looking forward to our discussion with you today.
Thank you so much, Julie and Jan, for the opportunity to share my work on your amazing platform. So thank you so much for having me this morning.
Oh, you're welcome. So, Stan, before we get started, school supplies. Give us a story.
Oh, man. When you were doing the intro, I just went back down memory lane. Also, as a kid and then in that teacher role as well. When you're a kid, you had to get those. For me, it was that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle binder, like you had to have the coolest binder. You want the one that no one had. The pencils, I used to love to have, 10 or 20 lead pencils. Never used them, but just you have them. It's just like those are the things that we showed off back in the day. Now it's followers on Snapchat or whatever. But our cred was the pencil.
Or the Trapper Keeper.
The Trapper Keeper,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And when you talk about pencils, when we're on YouTube, people have commented because we both like these old school number 2 wooden pencils.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. That's hard for me to say.
Okay,
And
well, Stan. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
wait, because
no,
that's
I was
awesome.
just I was just thinking too about, protecting textbooks, having those, like you said, wrapping them with the grocery bags. It's just a different time, but those are the things that brought us joy, and like
Right.
competing and making sure that book is safe and you bring it back to get those extra points. It was just such a simpler time,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
You know,
definitely brings back the memories.
you can't brown paper wrap your Chromebook or device.
Right.
No, you can't do that. No.
All right.
Um,
All right.
All right. Well, Stan, to get us started, why do you do what you do?
Yeah, well, my journey really started in the classroom. I tell the story my first year of teaching. The book fair comes to town, and y'all know about the book fair. I tell all my second grade babies, those of you that have money for the book fair, line up at the door. And if you don't, just continue to do your morning work. And some kids had money, and everyone else is doing their morning work. And my little one, Diego, comes up with tears in his eyes, and he says, Mr. Tucker, my mom said we don't have money for books, so I can't go. And it broke my heart. I remember how much joy the book fair brought me. And when I was able to leave with a book and come back and show all my classmates, and I wanted every kid to experience that joy. And then when I took a step back and I thought about my reading levels that were in my second grade class, you have kids on a kindergarten level, a first grade, second, third, fourth, and he was one of my lower babies. And then I'm like, is it because he doesn't have access to books is the reason why he's not reading on grade level? And I knew it was a problem with kids having access to books. And so when I got out of the classroom, I wanted to do something about it. And that's what started that journey. And it all started out with just taking books to school. I used to go, y'all know about the Scholastic warehouse sales. And I would go to Scholastic and, I'd buy these books and started out just going into classrooms and doing read alouds. This is before I became an author. I'd find a relevant title for that month or whatever, I thought the class may enjoy. And I go in and read the book, and then I would give books away. I went to a lot of Title I elementary schools and give those books to kids that I probably couldn't afford them. And, I'll tell them the importance of reading. And it just snowballed from there to where I am today.
Right. So I was going to ask you if you had a pivotal moment that kind of shaped that, but it sounds like your time in the classroom did. So what are some of the things that you do when you visit a school? I mean, you mentioned read alouds that can engage those reluctant readers. What do you think is important for our audience to hear?
Yeah. Well, as I enter the schools as an author, motivational speaker, or whatever you want to call it, my goal is to first of all have the teachers' backs, as I know how hard it is being a teacher. It's been some time since I've been in the classroom, and things have just gotten more challenging for teachers. And I know for me personally in my classroom, one of the most draining things about teaching is redirecting all day, redirecting behaviors and having to repeat themselves. And so first of all, I want to make sure these kids are respectful. Right. That's my first thing I want to teach these kids when I'm in a school. Like, that I'm big on respect, So what I do, I do my read aloud, and I write certain books just for presentation purposes to get the message through to the kids. And so at the end of my books, I always go back and I'll show them a time when I was in the classroom and I say, hey, I was a teacher before. And one of the hardest things about being a teacher is when you have to repeat yourself over and over again, when your kids don't work hard. And I need you, or your teachers out there who are showing up every day for you to help you become a better student, I need you to be respectful to them. I need you to put in the work that they're putting in behind the scenes for you. They work hard for you. You come into class and you work hard for them. So first and foremost, I want to get my teachers' backs because I know how hard it is, and they show up. And one thing I always talk about is, teachers are leaving the profession, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about teachers that want to be there, but they're just fed up with the disrespect. And, not only in the classroom, but in our country at times, I respect the work that teachers do. So really it's rooted in the teachers. But then after that piece, I talk about, the importance of being an author, right? Not only the author of a book, but letting them know they're the author of their own life story. And they can do whatever they want with their life story. When you're an author, you write the plot twist. you write that happy ending, right? And you can do all that through your life story, but it's centered around being kind and respectful and then working hard and living with integrity. And when you do that, anything you want to do with your life, you can do it, no matter what people tell you can or cannot do. So my goal is to just inspire kids to live their best story and also one day write their best story.
It's amazing. And I love the fact that you really show students how to value their teachers and you make a point of doing that in all of your presentations. You mentioned about reluctant readers and cultivating writers. How did you cultivate the idea of having students become authors?
Yeah, so I have a bookmobile. I'll tell you this quick story about my bookmobile. I always try to give this man a shout out. When I was teaching, I had a part-time serving job, because teachers don't make what they should make. It's making $38,000, and so I had a serving job to supplement. And when I got out of the classroom, I started Leap for Literacy, and I was going to schools during the day, and then I would serve during the evening to make a living. And so I was serving, and Zach Brown comes in, and the girls are going crazy. Oh my God, Zach Brown. And I'm like, who?
So the
And,
same Zach Brown that just sang the national anthem at the All-Star baseball
Oh,
game
he
in
did so
July.
good. That
yeah,
was
that,
great.
Okay.
that
Not
guy.
Zach Brown, sorry.
That Brown, that guy, yeah. And so I didn't know who he was at the time. I had heard Chicken Fried. I think that was one of the songs that was that
Right.
was trending at the time. And so he happened to sit in an area close to my section, and it wasn't my table that he was sitting at. It was another girl's table who wasn't in there. And so I just went to greet him. And at the time, he had 5 kids under the age of 10. So he's on a time constraint, right? And so he's like, we're ready to order. I was like, okay. So I just took his order. Next thing I know, he's asking me, hey, man, what do you do? I was telling my wife there's something about you. And so I told him about being a former teacher and starting this literacy initiative. And he said, well, I have this. He says, I'm a recording artist. I said, well, thank you for being humble, but I know who you are now because all the girls have been going crazy for it. and, and he
Right.
said, I'm building this camp down in Fayetteville, Georgia, and maybe you can help us out and we can help you out. And fast forward, I asked him if he could help me with a bookmobile. And so he was like, of course, man. He was selling his old limo bus at the time, and he gave me that limo bus, and we retrofitted it to
What?
be a bookmobile. And
OMG.
See,
yeah,
I've never heard the origin.
It's great.
yeah, it gave me $10,000 or so to fill it up the first time, and so I'm taking the bookmobile out to schools, and someone tags Ellen and Steve Harvey and all the people like you need to see this, and Ellen reaches out, and the story goes, I get on the Ellen show and I win $25,000 for the bookmobile. So I buy all these books, and this is to get back to your question that you asked about reluctant readers and writers. So I buy all these books and I'm stacking them on my bookmobile, and I said, man, how cool would it be to have a section on this bookmobile of books written by kids? So that's where the idea started. And before I released the program to the public, I said to myself, how can I ask a kid to do something that I've never done? Right. So that's when I wrote my first book to show them that if I can do it, so can they. And so I understand that kids are encouraged by their peers. When they see someone of their age doing something, they know that they could do something similar. And so I know with publishing these kids' books and getting them to write, it's just going to encourage other kids their age, whether it's in their school or in their county or in their state, to want to read it. And I believe that if we give kids, we show them that their words are valuable and important, their stories are cool, even at a young age. If we foster that, that's where your future Jason Reynolds and Kwame Alexander, all the J.K. Rowling's, that's you're cultivating that. And
Uh-huh.
I think, now, as you all know, kids are smarter than we were, because they have more access to information, and they're so bright, and we have to nurture that and cultivate that. So that's what I'm doing. I feel like kids want to read books written by kids. And I love a lot of times when, I go out and I give a book away to a kid that's written by a kid, you see their face light up. When I give it to them, a kid in second grade, just like you, friend, wrote that. And their face
Right.
lights up, so that's kind of how I'm getting kids excited about reading and writing.
So this is part of the Share Your Story program. I'm just going to hit a couple things. The Share Your Story program, and then some of these authors, child authors, then go on the very Airy library, correct?
Yes, correct. So
tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is going to date myself, but I grew up watching Reading Rainbow, and LeVar is my hero, and he made books cool and fun. The Very Airy Library is my version of a Reading Rainbow to try to get kids not only excited about reading, but writing. And for those who don't know about the Very Airy Library, quick a synopsis, there's a magical library hidden in the forest, and what makes it magical, it has every book that's ever been written. So I find this magical library, but it's in shambles because no one's visited in so long. So I remodel it, but I don't want it to be hidden anymore. I want to make it accessible to all. So I turn it into a flying library. We hook hot air balloons up to this Very Airy library, and we fly to find the newest author to keep the magic alive by putting their book in the library. And so when I get to visit these schools, it's so fun because I asked the school to show a few of the episodes, right? So the kids can get to know me on the screen before I arrive. And so now I have their attention, right? And now they're listening to me about being respectful and whatnot. And then when I get into their classroom, because when I do an author visit at a school, I want to be there all day, right? Because I know how important conversations can be, just one-on-one interactions. And if you're in there for 30 minutes, an hour doing you don't get that, right? So
yeah,
I
you're
like
there all day, and they're hugging you, and
that's why I'm always sick because I get 600 hugs,
Right.
but you never know, one of my love languages is physical touch, and you never know what a high five or a hug, and people are like, man, you're touching all those little germ factories, the kids, and I'm like, but you just don't know. Some babies, they don't get hugs from home. They may not, and so I get a lot of those, and they do a lot for me too, But it's funny when I go into their classrooms, right, and they're asking me, they're like, Stan, did you fly it here? And sometimes, and what makes me so happy is when a fifth grader asks that,
right,
and then that lets me know that they're still kids.
Yes, they are.
And they still have that imagination and that belief. A lot of them would still believe in Santa if someone hadn't, told. And so no one can debunk the Very Airy library, so they believe. And I'm like, well, did you see the episode where there was a hole in the balloon? Unfortunately, hot air balloons are on back order right now. And until they go on back order, I won't be able to fly. They're like, oh man, do it next. I'm like, I sure will. But I say, if you want to visit the Very Airy library, all you have to do is write a book. I said, every kid or every adult, they're authors. And what normally happens is kids start writing, and so that's another way I get kids and encourage them to write as well, because they want to be on the show. So
yeah, I mean, but you keep reinforcing the confidence by saying everyone has a story to tell, because I've heard you say that multiple times,
right?
And then they start to believe it. I do have a story I could tell.
That's right. Yeah, we all, and one of the reasons a lot of my books, my first books are about experiences that I had. My first book, Stan and the Man, is my experience with my dad going, and everyone has experiences, right? And that's what I tell kids, they're like, what do I write about? Well, what about the first time you went to a zoo? Or the first time you went to see those Atlanta Braves, go Braves, right? Write about that, right? How you felt, when you saw how massive the stadium was, and when you tasted that hot dog for the first time and Acuna got up and hit a grand slam, write about that. Like anybody can do that, right? And so if we continually tell these kids that, hopefully they'll believe us one of these days, but that's my thing. That's why you hear it multiple times from me, wherever I am in front of a group of kids.
So for school librarians out there listening, I know that they are interested after probably hearing your story and how students and teachers respond so positively to you. In addition to the school-wide events that librarians can organize, can you just briefly describe the writing kits or the Share Your Story program? If there's a way they can submit different submissions, just to give them some idea or context about how they could be involved in the things that you do.
Yeah. Well, for me, being a former athlete, I played a little college ball.
I forgot that in your intro, Stan.
Yeah, I wasn't great, but I was a decent player, and so I look at things sometimes from an athlete perspective, right? In a sense of how much emphasis we put on sports. right? We do our, they get their Letterman jackets, and, you have all these celebrations for kids who are athletes, right? Same thing, band, and, but what do we do for our creative kids, right? There's a kid out there who doesn't like sports, not into music, but they're a creative kid. They write, they read, right? And so I know every school has at least 10 kids, at least 10 kids. And y'all know from your time in the library, those kids that they're going to be in there
Correct.
every other day, right? If they're not there every day, you're like, they're out of school today, because they would be here, right?
Yeah.
That's
But
their
those are those,
place.
right? They're those
Mhm.
passionate readers. And one thing we know about passionate readers and great readers, they're great writers as well, right? Because they've read great writing. So the way kids can sign up. So we have a program that the kids can submit their books at the end of the year. So there's two submission dates, one during the school year. So it doesn't matter when I come to the school or when you sign them up, they have to submit their book by April 15th, tax day, right? And so a lot of times kids are like, I've already written the book. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But if you want to use that story in my program, strip it to bare bones, right? Take all the things out, just keep the framework, and then go back and follow each step in the process of the story of our program. There's 8 steps in the program, and each step they're building on their story, right? And so a lot of times kids they don't revise and they don't edit. They don't give their peers a chance to read it and to get feedback. And so I want them to go through my program step by step to make the best book that they can. So the program is very simple. It's $30 a kid, and they'll get a kit. And inside the kit, they'll have all the resources they need to write their own book. And so the resources I call it my GPS. It's my guided personal story, right? I tell the kids, have you heard of a GPS? They're like, yeah, the thing that our parents that get us to the grocery store. I'm like, yes, that's what a GPS does. It takes us step by step, turn by turn to our destination. And this little GPS is going to guide you to your best personal story. And so there's 8 steps. In each step, there's a video of me showing them how I did that step so they can watch me do it and then do their own thing. And then at the end, they write their final draft in a little hardcover book, and they have until April 15th to submit it. And then in May, we'll let the kids know which books were chosen. And then we bring those to life later on in that year, and the kids make royalties from the books. And so if anybody's out there that's listening that knows a kid or two, and if you're a librarian, you know those kids, just visit startyourstories.com and you can order a kit. And just remember the kit of the book has to be done by April 15th for consideration to be published.
Yeah, adults can remember tax day. That's
right.
right.
I was trying to get a memorable day, right?
That's smart. That's smart, Stan Tucker. So just from everything that you said, Stan, I just want to say, we say as librarians, we sometimes say readers become strong learners, but they also become writers.
That's right.
When you read, it just helps all of it.
Yes.
And I really appreciate all the things that you described today. I mean, we could talk for a really long time. We're going to have this in our show notes, but Julie and I will also talk in the recap too. But I really appreciate your time today with us. Where can we find you online so that people can contact you?
Yeah, the easiest place to find out about the things that I'm doing is just to go to stanleytucker.com. And so you can learn about our bookmobile, the writing program, and you can see the Very Airy Library as well. So click on that and hit that subscribe button as well while you're there. And then you can also learn how to book me for a visit at your school or local library as well.
So thank you so much for your time, and we hope you have a great school year too, since you'll be going back to school as well.
Yes. And thank you all for what you're doing for your platform. It's very important to engage our next generation of librarians. I was so inspired really quick. There was a young lady, because a lot of times someone has to die in a school before they leave a librarian position.
A lot of times that is true. It is a great position. People want to hold on to it.
Right, exactly. So you don't a lot of times see a lot of, first or second year, teachers or librarians this first, second year, they've been teaching for 10 or 15 years and they found that job. And so I met a young lady and she was a first year teacher, but a first year librarian. And it was so refreshing to see a young person getting to start their career off. So I appreciate what you all are doing for our librarians and using your platform to provide resources and
Thank you.
just important information that they need. So y'all keep up the good work, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Stan. We really enjoyed today.
I did as well. Thank you.
So I don't know about you, Julie, but I can't help but smile when I listen to Stan. His love of kids, kindness, and literacy. This is not going to be a typical recap for me, but here we go.
Stan really is an ambassador of kindness when he participates in the author visits at schools. His mission of embedding the message to students of kindness and respect for the teachers in the school is just wonderful. And having been a teacher, he really can relate to how challenging the profession can be.
Yes, last year I saw his presentation at 2 different schools, and he had the attention of kids, not just in the individual classrooms he visited, but hundreds of kids in the gym. And when he asked kids to turn to their teachers and say thank you, oh my gosh, it was so powerful. He brings joy wherever he goes, and we need kids to experience that at school.
He's led several initiatives to encourage young readers and writers. Providing access to the Young Writers Kits to students would be a great way to help school librarians encourage young readers and writers. The Share Your Story campaign goes hand in hand with the very Airy library program on YouTube. Librarians could easily incorporate some of Stan's initiatives within their library programs.
So I can't remember if I already used the word powerful in this recap, but when he says everybody in here is an author to students, it's just a reminder that everyone has a story worth telling. If you visit his website, stanleytucker.com, you're going to see smiling faces, high fives, and hugs.
We just love Stan, and what a ray of sunshine for educators and for students. He genuinely loves to connect with students and inspire them to pursue their dreams through reading and writing.
Yeah, and you will not regret inviting him to your school. And when you do, let me and Julie know so we can come too.
Make sure to visit our website at www.libraryexchangepodcast.com.
You'll find episode notes and links. You can even submit your questions or inspiring stories that may be featured on the podcast.
If you're looking for some swag for your library or book-loving friends, visit libraryexchange.etsy.com.
That's a lot of URLs, so I'm glad you had to say all of that, Julie.
Thanks for joining us. We can't wait to have you back for our next episode of Library Exchange.